My mom asked me to leave my son behind for a peaceful dinner. Then I showed up, and can you imagine being told your own child is too loud, too disruptive for Thanksgiving dinner, only to walk in and find your sister's kids causing absolute chaos? What I saw next shattered my perception of family and ignited a fire in me that changed everything. So, I'm 33, and I've got an amazing son named Charlie. Most of the time, things with my parents are okay, but if you've been around, you know there's always been this undercurrent of tension between me and my sister, Emily. She's always been the golden child, perfect in their eyes. Seriously, ask them, and they'll swear she's the better kid. For years, I just kind of accepted it, or at least I thought I had. This past Thanksgiving, my parents called me up, excited, and invited me over. But they were crystal clear about one thing. No kids this year, Sam. We're keeping it quiet. It's going to be an adult dinner. Honestly, I was a little bummed at first. But then I thought, you know what? This could actually be nice. A peaceful dinner. No kids running wild. I was actually looking forward to some adult time for once, so I arranged a sitter for Charlie. It would be a quick trip, a few hours, then I'd be back home. Just to be absolutely sure, I called my mom the night before. Mom, I asked, just confirming it's really just adults, right? Even though deep down I already knew the answer. Oh, yes, Sam, she said, her voice dripping with assurance. We want a nice, quiet Thanksgiving. No kids running around causing noise. Perfect, I thought. Everything's settled. The next day, I headed out, ready for a chill few hours with my family. Easy peasy. Or so I thought. When I got to their house, it looked exactly as I remembered. The table was set. The house smelled incredible. That classic holiday warmth filled the air. I pictured a couple of hours of peace, maybe even some one-on-one time with my mom. But the moment I walked in, something felt off. The first thing that hit me wasn't the smell of turkey, it was the noise. Kids' laughter, footsteps pounding across the floor. It was a full-blown stampede. I froze, blinking in disbelief. Then I heard a voice. Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam. And there they were, Emily's 3 kids. They were running through the kitchen, chasing each other, playing tag, screaming, exactly the chaos my parents had said they didn't want. I stood there, utterly dumbfounded. Wait, what? I mumbled, thinking I must be hallucinating. But no, it was real. Emily's kids right there. Confused, annoyed, and a growing sense of dread, I turned to my mom. She was at the stove, stirring gravy, like she didn't have a care in the world. Mom, I said, trying to keep my voice calm, you said no kids this year. She turned, a smile on her face that completely didn't match the situation. Oh, honey, we did say no kids, but Emily's kids are here. They're different. Then she added, you know how it is with your son. My heart started pounding. Different. I practically shouted, my voice rising. What does that even mean, Mom? You told me it was going to be a quiet dinner. No kids running around because they're too loud. But this is exactly what you said you didn't want. Mom looked at me, giving me that look, the one she always gives when she wants to avoid an uncomfortable conversation. Well, your sister's kids are well-behaved, Sam. They're quieter. My face flushed hot. They're quieter? This was a straight-up slap in the face. I looked over at Emily, who was standing near the table with this smug little smile, clearly enjoying the whole scene. She chimed in, it's not a big deal, Sam. Mom just wants a calm dinner with family. And, you know, my kids know how to act. Act. My son is well-behaved. He's not perfect, but he's certainly not a problem. Yet, somehow, I was the one being excluded. My child, deemed too loud for Thanksgiving, while Emily's kids could run around causing a racket. Tears welled up, but I refused to break down.
Not in front of them.
I took a deep, shaky breath, my hands trembling. I'm sorry, I said, my voice thick with frustration. But I can't do this. I turned on my heel and walked straight out the door. I didn't wait for my mom to call after me. I didn't wait for Emily to say anything else. I just left. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing, my heart heavy with anger and hurt. I felt like I wasn't even part of the family, like my son didn't matter, like we were less than. I wanted to scream, to yell at my parents, tell them exactly how I felt. But what was the point? I already knew where I stood. I wasn't going to get through to them. 2 days passed. I thought maybe I'd just let it go. But then the text started. First, my dad. He asked how I was doing, said he and mom missed me, apologized for how things went. But it felt hollow, fake. I could tell they were just trying to smooth things over. Then came Emily's text. She was asking if I could help them out with some bills. Apparently, they were a little tight this month and she needed a temporary loan. I stared at the screen, utterly aghast. After everything? After treating me like dirt, excluding my son from a family dinner for a ridiculous reason, they had the nerve to ask me for money? I was shaking with anger, but a cold clarity settled over me. I knew exactly what I had to do. I wouldn't let them manipulate me. Not again. Not ever again. I sat there, letting the anger simmer. The blatant hypocrisy of it all. They wanted me to come to their rescue when things weren't going their way? How convenient. I wasn't going to be their fixer, their doormat, the one who always cleaned up everyone else's mess while they treated me like an afterthought. So I took a deep breath, my fingers hovering over my phone. I typed, "Emily, I saw your message. I know things are tough, but I can't help you out this time. You made it clear my son wasn't welcome at Thanksgiving, and I've got no interest in being treated like an outsider anymore. I've helped you guys enough, and you've taken advantage of my kindness for too long. I'm done." I reread it, heart pounding, then hit send. This was the only response that made sense. The reply came almost immediately. "Sam, please don't be like this. Your family. I didn't mean it like that. I was just asking for a little help. We've always helped you, right? We've always been there for you, when you needed us." My blood boiled. Always helped me? I couldn't remember a single time my parents or Emily had genuinely had my back. Sure, they'd made an effort sometimes, but it was always on their terms, always when it made them look good. I saw right through the manipulation. She was trying to guilt-trip me, make me feel bad for standing up for myself. But I wasn't falling for it. Not this time. I typed back, "You've never been there for me, Emily. Not when it counted. You don't get to use me when it's convenient for you. If you need to figure things out, you'll have to do it on your own. I won't be part of this toxic cycle anymore." I hit send, feeling a strange mix of relief and frustration. I knew this would stir up a storm, but I couldn't let them walk all over me anymore. And then, like clockwork, my phone started blowing up. Dad first, urging me to consider the family. Then Mom called. I didn't pick up at first. My hands were shaking too much. But she didn't stop. It rang again and again. Finally, I answered. "Sam, why are you being like this? Your father and I are upset. We've always been here for you," she said, her voice softer than I expected. "Really?" I replied, the anger rising again. "You've always been here for me? You told me my son wasn't welcome at Thanksgiving, and you still haven't apologized for it. You treat me like I'm not part of the family, but you want me to bail you out when things are tough? It doesn't work like that." There was a long pause. Then a sigh. That dismissive sigh I knew all too well. "Sam, it's not like that. You've always been a bit dramatic," she began. "No," I interrupted. "You don't get to call me dramatic after what you did. You told me my kid was too loud. That's what this is about. I've been your son for years, and this is how you treat me? You don't get to act like nothing happened and expect me to just let it go." I could hear her voice cracking. "Please, we're sorry. We just didn't want it to be too loud." I laughed bitterly. "You didn't want it to be too loud, but Emily's kids can run around and scream, and that's fine? You're so full of it." Tears threatened to fall, but I fought them back. I wasn't letting them manipulate me into guilt. "Look, Mom, I'm done. I've had enough. I'm not your fallback anymore. I'm not your plan B for when things go wrong. Don't call me again unless you're ready to really apologize." The line went quiet. Then another sigh. "We'll talk later, okay?" "Yeah, we'll see," I muttered and hung up. The rest of the day was a blur. I went to bed feeling angry, betrayed, and utterly exhausted. My phone stayed silent, but I knew it was only a matter of time. It wasn't just Thanksgiving that hurt, it was everything leading up to it. The years of feeling like I was second-rate compared to Emily, the way they'd put her on a pedestal while I was expected to just swallow my pride. I was sick of it. Then another message came, from Emily again. Sam, we really need your help. Things are getting bad, and we don't have anyone else to turn to. Please, just this once. I swear I'll make it up to you. I stared at it, the weight of the decision pressing down. Every part of me screamed no. But then there was that tiny whisper. Their family. They'll change. They need you. No, I quickly reminded myself. They hadn't changed. They'd apologized for saving face, never for truly acknowledging their actions. I'd let them walk all over me because I was afraid of pushing them away completely. But this time it felt different. I put my phone down, rubbing my temples. I was so tired of the emotional games, the guilt trips, of always being the one who gave in. Charlie was my priority. He deserved a father who stood up for himself, who knew you didn't have to bend over backward for people who didn't respect you. I thought about how they'd treated me for years, praising Emily for every little thing, while I was left to deal with their leftovers. I wasn't just the black sheep. I was the one fighting for scraps. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Emily. Sam, please. I'm really sorry for how things went down. You know I didn't mean to hurt you, right? Things have been hard lately. The kids, the house, everything. I'm trying, but I don't know what to do. I need you. We need you. Please. The words hit me like a punch. Guilt trip. Again. We need you. How many times had I heard that, only to be left out in the cold when it was time for them to step up? Not this time. I took a deep breath and typed, I'm sorry, Emily, but I'm not going to keep enabling this. You've made it clear that I'm not welcome when things aren't going your way. I've helped you before, but I'm done now. I've got to take care of my own, and that doesn't include being the one you turn to when you need something. You've made your choices, and now you have to live with them. I hit send without looking back. Liberating. Terrifying. This was the breaking point. A few minutes later, Mom again. Sam, what's going on? Why are you shutting us out? We're family, and we've always helped you. Even when you didn't ask. Don't do this. We've always helped you. The same old story. They always acted like I owed them something. I took a breath and dialed Mom's number. I wasn't doing texts anymore. I needed to hear her voice one last time. When she picked up, her voice had that calmness that was actually frustration. Sam, please. I don't know why you're doing this. We've always been there for you. We're your family. Always been there for me? I repeated, my voice rising. You haven't been there for me. You've been there for Emily. You've always put her first, and you've made me feel like I was just some backup. Well, I'm done. I'm done being the second choice. I'm done being your safety net. I'm done. Sam, don't say that. You don't mean it. We can work this out. We're family. You're overreacting. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic. My heart skipped a beat. My anger flared. Really? After everything? That's what you're going to say? I'm not overreacting. I've been patient for so long. I've let you walk all over me, and I'm not doing it anymore. I've spent my entire life feeling like I didn't matter to you. I'm not going to sit here and pretend everything's fine when you treat me like this. There was a long silence. I could hear her shallow, shaky breath. She didn't know how to respond. For the first time, I didn't feel bad about it. You don't understand, Sam, she finally said, her voice breaking. We're just trying to help. It's not easy for any of us. No, you're not, I replied, voice firm. You've never been about helping. You've been about controlling. She didn't say anything after that. I hung up, knowing that things had just changed forever. There was a strange mix of relief and dread. My hands were shaking, but I wasn't sure if it was from anger or the weight of what I'd just done. Cutting ties with my family, at least part of it, felt like a betrayal. But at the same time, it felt like the most honest thing I'd done in years. The silence in my house was peaceful, almost too peaceful. It was the calm after a storm, with only the wreckage left behind. But it was necessary. I'd spent so long bending over backward for people who didn't truly care about me. Now I was standing up for myself, putting my son first. I wasn't letting my family drag me down with their expectations. their guilt trips, their favoritism. For years, they'd made me feel like I wasn't enough. I wasn't about to let my son grow up watching that kind of toxic behavior. He deserved better. He deserved a strong father who knew his worth, who set boundaries, and who wasn't afraid to walk away from relationships that no longer served him. The phone buzzed again. Emily. Sam, please don't do this.
I'm sorry.
I know I've messed up, but you're making it worse. You're breaking up the family. I need you. We all do. You can't just walk away from us. We're your family. You're breaking up the family. That was always the threat, wasn't it? The ultimate guilt trip. But this time it didn't work. I felt no guilt. I felt empowered. I didn't even bother responding. Instead, I locked my phone and turned it off. I needed space. I needed to focus on myself and Charlie. And for the first time in forever, I wasn't constantly worried about their drama. That night, I curled up on the couch with Charlie. He was playing quietly beside me. I'd been so caught up in the drama for so long, I'd forgotten how peaceful it could be. Just the two of us. The weight that had been on my chest for years seemed to lift. I could breathe again. I didn't have to choose between my son and my family. The next few days were quieter than I expected. My phone stayed silent. Was it the calm before the storm? I had no idea. But I knew this was just the beginning. I had no illusions they'd let me go easily. They'd fight, push, guilt trip, manipulate. But I was ready. A week later, the inevitable happened. My mom showed up at my door. No knock, no call. Just there. Her face was pained, determined. I could see she'd been crying, her eyes red-rimmed. But I wasn't falling for it. Not this time. I crossed my arms, leaning against the doorframe, just studying her. Sam, she began, her voice soft, wavering. You can't just do this. We're your family.
You can't cut us off like this.
I've been calling, but you won't answer.
I need you to understand.
I do understand, Mom. I replied, my voice steady. I understand that you've always made me feel second to Emily. I understand that no matter what I do, it's never enough. And I understand that if I keep allowing myself to be treated like this, nothing will ever change. Her face twisted in shock, like she didn't know what to say. She took a step back, as if my words had physically pushed her. You don't mean that, she pleaded. You can't. You're just upset, and I get it, but you don't understand what you're doing. This isn't just about you and Emily. This is about the family. No, I snapped. It's about me. For once, it's about me, and I'm done. I've spent my whole life trying to be good enough for you, for Emily. I've tried to be everything you wanted, but it's never been enough. I've had enough of the games. I've had enough of the drama. And I'm not coming back this time. Her eyes filled with tears. For a split second, I almost felt guilty. But I shook my head, willing the feeling away. I couldn't fall back into that cycle. I love you, Mom, I said, my voice softening slightly. But I need to love myself more. I need to stand up for what's right for me, and right now, that means walking away. She stood there for a long moment, disbelief and sadness etched on her face. But I didn't flinch. I didn't apologize. I didn't back down. Finally, she turned and walked away. No more words, no more guilt trips. As she disappeared down the driveway, I closed the door, locking it without looking back. I knew it wouldn't be easy. The road ahead would be tough. But I'd made my decision. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally in control of my own life. I realized that instead of begging for a seat at their table, I simply stopped and started building a better table of my own. 6 months after that Thanksgiving, I realized something I never thought I would. I didn't miss the chaos. I missed the idea of my family sometimes, sure. I missed what I had always wanted them to be. Parents who'd call just to ask how Charlie was doing, a sister who truly wanted us around, a family where no one competed for affection. But I didn't miss what we had actually been. Once I understood the difference, everything became easier. The first month was the hardest. My parents called. Emily sent messages from apologetic to angry accusations that I was punishing her kids out of jealousy.
I didn't respond.
Eventually, I blocked her number. Not because I hated her, but because every notification made my stomach clench. I was tired of giving her that control. My parents were harder. I didn't block them, but I stopped answering unless their messages were respectful. At first, that meant I barely answered. Dad sent long texts about forgiveness. Mom kept saying she didn't understand why one Thanksgiving dinner had made me throw away 33 years of family. That's when it hit me. They still didn't get it. It was never about one Thanksgiving dinner. That dinner was just the moment everything became impossible to ignore. Charlie, surprisingly, helped me understand it better than anyone. One evening, eating pizza on the couch, he casually asked, "Dad, how come we don't go to Grandma's anymore?" I froze. I'd spent weeks wondering what to tell him. I didn't want to poison him against them, or drag him into adult problems. So I told him the simplest truth I could. Sometimes people we love don't treat us very kindly, and sometimes we need a little space until they learn how to do better. Charlie chewed his pizza, shrugged, and said, "Okay, can we watch a movie?" That was it. No interrogation. Kids have a funny way of making complicated things simple. I'd spent my entire life convincing myself that sharing blood meant tolerating anything. My son understood in 10 seconds that loving somebody didn't mean letting them hurt you. Life gradually settled into something quieter. I spent more time with Charlie, truly present instead of distracted by the latest family crisis. We started Friday movie nights, Sunday morning pancakes. I laughed more. I slept better. I stopped checking my phone every 20 minutes. Then, about 3 months later, a letter arrived from my dad. A handwritten letter. I almost threw it away, but curiosity won. For once, there were no excuses. He wrote that he'd spent months thinking about what I'd said. He admitted that he and Mom had treated Emily differently for years. He admitted they'd convinced themselves it was justified because Emily supposedly needed more help while I was independent enough to handle myself. He said that somewhere along the way, they had confused my ability to survive without their support with not needing their support at all. That sentence stayed with me. It didn't erase anything, but it was the first time one of them had acknowledged what actually happened without immediately explaining why I shouldn't be upset. Dad didn't ask for money. He didn't ask me to call. He simply apologized and said that if I ever wanted to speak to him again, he'd be there. I waited 2 weeks before calling. Our conversation lasted 15 minutes. It wasn't some miraculous reconciliation. There were awkward silences. But when he apologized again, I believed him. Mom took longer. She still wanted everything fixed immediately: family dinners, holidays, smiling photographs. I told her that wasn't happening. If she wanted a relationship with me and Charlie, she had to build one slowly, and there would be boundaries. To my surprise, she eventually agreed. Emily didn't. The last message I received from her came through Dad because I still had her blocked. She apparently wanted me to know she thought I was selfish and had abandoned the family when they needed me most. I asked Dad one question. Did she ever apologize for excluding Charlie? He was silent. That told me everything. I told him I hoped Emily and her kids were doing well, but I wasn't ready to have her back in my life. Maybe someday. Maybe not. I finally understood that forgiveness didn't require access. The biggest test came when Thanksgiving rolled around again. A year earlier, the thought of spending it without my parents would have crushed me. This time, Charlie and I made our own plans. We invited a couple of friends who didn't have anywhere to go, bought far too much food, and turned our little dining room into the most chaotic Thanksgiving table I'd ever seen. Kids were running around. Somebody spilled juice. The turkey took almost an hour longer than expected. Charlie laughed so loudly that I could hear him from the kitchen. And every time I heard that laugh, I remembered Mom's words from last year. Too loud. I looked around at the mess, the noise, the people squeezed around my table, and I couldn't stop smiling. This was exactly the kind of Thanksgiving my parents had supposedly wanted to avoid, and it was wonderful. Halfway through dinner, Charlie climbed into the chair beside me and whispered, "Dad, this is the best Thanksgiving ever." I had to look away for a second, my eyes burning. "Yeah," I said, putting an arm around him. "I think so, too." Later that night, after everyone had gone home and Charlie was asleep, I stood in the kitchen surrounded by dirty dishes and leftovers. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Dad. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you and Charlie had a great day. Love you both. No guilt. No demands. Just a message. I replied, Happy Thanksgiving, Dad. We had a good one. Hope you did, too. Then I put my phone down. That was when I realized how much had changed. A year earlier, I had walked out of my parents' house feeling rejected, furious, convinced that standing up for myself meant losing my family. Instead, I had learned that boundaries didn't destroy healthy relationships. They exposed unhealthy ones and gave healthier ones a chance to grow. My relationship with my parents wasn't magically repaired. Maybe it never would be completely. Emily and I still weren't speaking. There were still moments when I wondered if I'd been too harsh, and nights when memories of being the second choice hurt. But those moments didn't control me anymore. Most importantly, Charlie would never grow up believing he had to beg relatives to treat him like he mattered. He would never wonder why his cousins were welcome somewhere while he wasn't. As long as I had anything to say about it, my son would know that being loved wasn't something he had to earn. Before going upstairs that Thanksgiving night, I walked into the living room and looked at the small construction paper turkey Charlie had made at school. On each feather, he'd written something he was thankful for: pizza, video games, our house, his friends. And on the biggest feather, in crooked handwriting, he'd written my dad. I stood there, smiling like an idiot. For years, I had worried about whether I was good enough for my parents. I'd measured myself against Emily, against their expectations, against every impossible standard. Somewhere along the way, I'd forgotten to ask the only question that really mattered. Was I becoming the kind of father my son deserved? Looking at that ridiculous paper turkey, I finally knew the answer. I turned off the lights and headed upstairs. The house was quiet again, but it wasn't the suffocating silence that had followed those first arguments with my family. This silence felt safe. It felt earned. I didn't know exactly what the future held for my parents, Emily, or me. Maybe there would be reconciliation someday. Maybe there wouldn't. I was finally okay with not knowing, because walking away hadn't broken my family. It had taught me what family was supposed to feel like. And as I checked on Charlie one last time before bed, pulling the blanket over his shoulders and watching him sleep peacefully, I realized I hadn't lost my place at anyone's table. I had simply stopped begging for a seat at theirs and built a better table of my own.